All right. So, Mr. Ojeda, you were here on a couple of different warrants. Jail, have you seen anyone from the PD's office yet?
No,
You haven't seen anyone yet?
no.
Okay.
Your Honor, she's on her way.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Your Honor, do you want me to pull him back and keep going down the list, or you just want to wait?
No, I think Mr.
Oh, he's
Ojeda,
missing.
I'm just checking his, I think he's here on misdemeanor matters out of JP court, so we can go ahead and go with his, so we're fine. I just was trying to double check. And I think we had Mr. Kreutz first. Is he somewhere around?
I'm still trying to get him to the unit right now.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Ojeda, you were here this morning on a couple of warrants out of Nogales Municipal Court. Looks like the charges are shoplifting on one and disorderly conduct on the other. You do have the right to remain silent on these. Anything you say can and will be used against you. These are both misdemeanor matters. Good morning, Ms. Costick.
Morning, Judge. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. I have an address for you, Mr. Ojeda, on East Morley. Is that a good address for you?
Yes, sir.
All right. And that is in Nogales. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So the bond amounts on the warrants on one of them for the shoplifting is asking for $2,499. It does look like this dated back to 2019, and the warrant was issued in October of 2024. Are you working, Mr. Ojeda?
Not at the moment, due to being incarcerated.
Okay. So you're being held on other things right now?
I just finished with those cases. I'm just waiting to get released from here.
Were the other cases felony cases through Pima County?
It was probation, but they revoked it. So
Okay. All right. These two cases, I am going to impose a bond. I don't have any way of appointing you an attorney, but someone from Santa Cruz County will. So I'm going to impose $1,000 bond on both of the cases. What that means is that the jail will be contacting Nogales and letting them know that you're done with whatever you had holding you here, and they're either going to come get you or decide they don't want to, and then you can move on to whatever your sentence is supposed to be on your felony through probation, if your probation was revoked. All right.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is set a review hearing for you here in Pima County, just in case you're still here, for November 28th at 9 o'clock in the morning. So if you're still sitting here in the Pima County Jail, we'll make sure that we see you on these so that they don't fall through the cracks. All right.
Okay.
All right. That's all for today.
Thank you. Yeah, good day.
Thank you. So I did do concurrent warrant.
These we're gonna do now, or do you have misdemeanors?
We should be doing misdemeanors.
Misdemeanors? Judge, I'll take my leave if you're gonna do misdemeanors, and I'll be back for the remainder of the felonies, if that's okay.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, thanks, Judge.
They're the ones you should have.
Let's take a seat. Which chair? Yeah. I'm sorry.
And when the judge gets here, I stand up.
Sir, I'm already here. I'm right here on the screen. Can you see me?
Oh, okay, good. Yes, I can.
Hi, good morning. Tell me your name.
Name is Mondo Balderrama.
And is it Armando?
Yes, correct.
Valderrama?
No. Yes, no, Armando Balderrama.
Okay, so you are here this morning for an initial appearance on charges of disorderly conduct and threats and intimidation. These are misdemeanor offenses. They are domestic violence related. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. And actually, I said they were domestic violence related. They are not. It's just disorderly conduct and threats and intimidation.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I have an address for you on West Calle Frisa. Is that still a good address for you?
Yes, 3322 Calle Prison.
Okay. Sir, if I release you today on these charges, you're not going to be allowed to have any contact with the victim, and you have to promise to show up at a future court date. Will you do that?
That is correct, Your Honor.
All right. I am going to release you on your promise to appear here today. For
Yes.
additional conditions of release, do not have any contact with the victim. Do not return to the incident location. Your next court date is going to be December 3rd at 8:30 in the morning. You do have to appear at that date and time at Pima County Justice Court. If you fail to appear, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand your conditions of release?
Yes,
Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear on December 3rd at 8:30 at Justice Court?
yes,
All right. And you should get a copy of your paperwork when you get released later today. That'll have that date and time and the address for Justice Court. All right, you're all done for today,
Okay.
sir.
well, Your Honor, may I have a request on the residents? I was wondering if you could have a little mercy on me if I could reside at the residence. The only problem is that my fiance and her elderly dad, we all live together there, and when she goes to work, I care for him, and when she comes back, we both care for him. We've been doing this since January of this year, and I'm just asking if you could just show a little mercy on that, or I could reside there if, for the time being for that situation.
Hang on, sir.
You should be right on this.
So I will allow you to reside at the incident location, which was your home. I understand the workers may be in the area. Just do not have any contact with them.
I will promise that I will not have contact with the victim or victims. I don't know how they're.
Yeah. So I will take away the fact that I'm going to change that to don't go to the victim's residence and work as opposed to the incident location. So that way you can go back to your residence. But if you see, I'm sure that roofing company has been in the area. You may drive by other houses that they're working on, all of the things. Avoid them, don't talk to them,
Yes.
stay away from them, all of that, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
So don't go to anywhere they're working, and don't have any contact with them, and you can return to the incident location since it's your home.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay? All right. Have a good day.
Thank you. See.
No. Yeah, in for the vote. Up there, it's full. Yeah. We're back there. Just down the road.
Let me see. Hang on just a second, sir.
Yes.
I don't know. I sent it to you, so tell me if that happened. That's what I wanted. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Great, sir. Tell me your full name.
David Emmel.
Mr. Emmel, you were here on a few different matters today. And it also looks like you have a hold on another felony case. So the two matters that we're here to talk about today involve warrants out of Oro Valley and also out of Pima County Justice Court. The Justice Court charges are for a shoplifting. Looks like that warrant dates back to 2023. Your Oro Valley cases are theft, and there are 3 of them, and those are dated back in August of 2023. You do have the right to remain silent on all of these cases. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Because you're being held on another felony matter, sir, at least according to my records, I am going to impose a bond on these cases. For the Pima County Justice Court case, I'm going to impose a $250 cash or secured bond. I'm appointing Caitlin Waters to represent you in that matter. Your next hearing for that is going to be tomorrow at 1 o'clock. It'll be a video review hearing, much like what you're doing here today. If you do get out of custody, you are expected to appear at that date and time, or a warrant could issue for your arrest. On the Oro Valley case, I am going to impose a $500 cash or secured bond on that case as well. Do not go to any of the incident locations, sir, where the shoplifting theft occurred. Do not return there. There's victims there. Don't go back there at all. On your Oro Valley case, I have to appoint a different attorney. That attorney is going to be Richard Glenn out of Oro Valley. Your next court date for that case is going to be November 6th at 10:30 in the morning. Again, if you're still in custody, the jail will make sure that they put you in front of a video, much like we're doing here today for both of those hearings. But if you end up bonding out, it's your responsibility to make sure that you show up at those date and times, or they're going to issue more warrants for your arrest. Do you understand all of your conditions of release?
Yes.
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yeah.
Right, you're all done.
Thank you.
Your Honor, this is Court Interpreter Pedro Davis. Are you able to hear me?
I am, sir, and we do not have any Spanish speakers today. Is that right, Jail?
Yes.
Right. Have a good day, Mr. Davis.
Thank you very much.
You get the insurance.
Hey, sir, tell me your name.
Brandon Briggs.
So, Mr. Kreutz, you are here today on a warrant out of Harris County, Texas, that looks like it was issued back in September of this year. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. The bond amount for that case is listed anywhere between $30,000 and $150,000 is what they're requesting.
Okay.
I am going to impose a bond on that warrant, sir, of $30,000. It is going to be a cash or secured bond. Hi, Sarah.
May I excuse me some arguments related to bond before the court makes a ruling?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. So Judge, I understand that there is this warrant out of Texas and the amount requested on the bond is $30,000. What I would ask the court to consider doing is actually releasing Mr. Kreutz to the supervision of pretrial services or to a bond in far less amounts. Mr. Kreutz and I have discussed, and he is very much interested in working with his attorney on this extradition matter, and he is even willing to go to Texas on his own dime to take care of this. He has a daughter, 10 and 7. He is the primary provider for them. They are physically in his custody. Their mother is leaving town, and he would very much like to be there for his children. He has verified confirmed housing in the community and has no intention of leaving the jurisdiction.
I saw that, I think Mr. Hotchkiss, no, it looks like Mr. Mosier is actually online. I saw the state's recommendation. They were asking for 30,000. And actually what the warrant says is anywhere between 30,000 and 150,000. So that is the range that they give on that, Sarah, is my understanding, and looking at the warrant. It doesn't actually say 30,000. That's the range. So.
Understood, Judge.
Mr.
I would ask the court to use its discretion to consider release at this time, however.
I understand. I just wanted to make sure that you saw that. It looks like I have an address on East Della Rocia Court. Is that a good address for you, sir?
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Mosier?
That we would ask the court to impose the $30,000 bond. That's the bond requested in the warrant. I do understand the court has the discretion to modify that bond at the time of this initial appearance. But given the requested warrant amount, that's the state will defer to that in its request.
I am going.
Judge, so I'm sorry, I just would like to request clarification because I'm not seeing the bond amount, I'm seeing the theft amount for the charge of 30 to 150,000, between 30 and 150,000. I'm not seeing where there's a specific amount requested on the warrant itself.
Okay, and I do see that now, and that is what it says. There is not an amount listed. It does say bail is set as indicated above. I don't know what that means because it does say commit the offense of theft, and then after that, it does have 30,000, and then it looks like less than 150,000, which if it's similar to our statutes, I understand that would be the amount.
Attention all units, clear the halls, clear the halls. Go in the hotel, clear the halls.
Sorry, I'm looking at a couple different pieces of paper just to make sure that I have everything that I at least have available to us here. Looks like the offense was May of 2023. Mr. Kreutz, how long have you lived in Pima County?
Most of my life I spent 6 years in California, rather than that, I've been in Pima County.
He's got no felony history. License does cross-verify with his current address.
All right, Mr. Kreutz, I am going to release you on this matter with the promise that you appear here for your hearing. You are also going to need to obviously get the matter taken care of in Texas. I am going to appoint the legal defender's office to represent you here in this particular case. They will be contacting you, and it looks like Ms. Kostick is going to write down a phone number for you. I don't know who at the legal defender's office, but your hearing on this fugitive matter is going to be November 5th at 2:30 in the afternoon. And that will be here. That's going to be here. Yes, yes. So what'll happen is the state of Arizona will notify them that you've obviously been picked up on this warrant. They'll get notified that I've released you, and you'll have the fugitive hearing here. So talk with your attorney from the legal defender's office about what that's going to look like. The hearing will be held at Pima County Superior Court on the 8th floor, and you will be required to be there. So make sure that you show up for that hearing, and then that will kind of help guide whatever it is that you all need to do. Once you talk to your attorney, they may have advice for you on contacting Texas to get it taken care of. But it's not going to go away. So you do need to make sure you get it resolved. Do you understand, sir?
I do, thank you.
Right. You're all done.
Thank you very much, Judge.
I handed you the wrong file back. Did I give you 4 back? No? Oh, okay.
Back to misdemeanors.
Oh.
More felonies or back to misdemeanors? Back to misdemeanors. It's y'all know see it. Sorry. But
Hi, sir. Tell me your name.
Charles Leva, Your Honor.
Mr. Leva, you are here today on charges of failing to comply with a court order and assault. These are domestic violence offenses. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review a report prepared by pretrial services in this matter. It does look like the victim in this case is a former spouse, Miss Sanchez Huerta. I've also had an opportunity to review the Form 4C, which is an intimate partner risk assessment, and factored that into my consideration. We're here to talk about conditions of release.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sir, if I release you today, you are not going to be allowed to have any contact with the victim at all. Do not go to where she is living or working. To the extent that you were staying there, you are not going to be allowed to stay there anymore. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
The address that you have on Pantano Road, is that somewhere not with her?
I actually live alone, Your Honor, at that address. She lives in a different address, Your Honor.
So it also looks like there is an active order of protection in Pima County Superior Court, listing her that is still active as well. So you should not be having any contact with her at all.
Yes, Your Honor. I honestly, I've been struggling. I've known her for almost 7 years, and I
Right.
do respect,
I don't,
I do. I'm so sorry about, all this.
I don't want you to say anything else. So remember, anything you say can be used against you. So what we're doing here is setting conditions of release. My concern is because of the active order of protection and the nature of the offenses, I need you to understand that if I do release you, there is absolutely no contact. So you've told me you're willing to abide by that. So I am going to release you on these charges. You'll get released later today. Your next court date is going to be December 3rd at 10:30 in the morning at Pima County Justice Court. You do need to appear at that date and time, and if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
And then the conditions of release: commit no acts of domestic violence and do not have any contact. I mean, in person, no texting, no social media, absolutely no contact with Ms. Sanchez Huerta. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Right, you're all done for today.
Thank you.
Hi, sir. Tell me your name.
Manuel Mascareñas.
Mr. Mascareñas, you are here today on a couple of charges that are domestic violence related. They are misdemeanors. It's an assault and disorderly conduct. You do have the right to remain silent on those charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. Sir, if I release you today, you're going to have to find some other place to live that is not with your spouse and daughter for the time being. Can you find somewhere else to go?
How much time do I have?
I'm sorry?
Yes, I will find another place, but I'm gonna need to get my clothes and my car and how can I do that?
We can take care of doing that. So if I release you today, sir, will you promise to show up at a court date that I give you in the future?
Absolutely, yes.
So I am going to release you on these charges today. Your next court date is going to be December 3rd at 10:30 in the morning at Pima County Justice Court. You do have to appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
And then your conditions of release: commit no acts of domestic violence. You are not allowed to have any contact with the victims. Do not go to where they are living or working. I'm going to check a box on your conditions of release form that does allow you to return to that location so that you can collect all the things that you say you need. Your car, if you need clothes, whatever it is that you need, you can go get, but you have to take law enforcement with you. Do not go to the house by yourself.
Okay, one more question. She was working in my clinic. I'm a physician, and can you ask her not to go to the clinic?
So I don't have the ability to ask her anything. When
I already asked her not to go.
That's fine. I mean, again, what I will do when you get released later today, you're going to get a copy of your conditions of release, and it says no contact with her. It does list her by name as well as your daughter on the order, and it says you cannot go to where she is living or working. So, if I don't know how that's going to work, but that order will apply to you. So if it's your business, I don't know if because she's working there, but you can't have any contact with her. I don't have the ability to tell her that. That's the order that applies to you.
Okay,
Okay.
and how do I get a hold of someone to let me get my car and clothes and everything?
So the order you get when you get released that says may return with a police escort, you can either go to a nearby police station during their business hours and let them know that you need to go to your house. They'll go with you, or call 911. Do not go to your house and sit in front of the house and wait for them to get there. If you call and let them know that you need to go to that address, they'll usually give you a time frame so that they can meet you there so that you can collect your belongings.
Okay.
Okay, just make sure you go back with the police. Any other questions, sir?
No.
All right, you're all done for today.
Thank you.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
John Ray.
Mr. Ray, you were here today on a charge of domestic violence, failing to comply with a court order, interfering with the judicial proceeding. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. Sir, if I release you today, you are not going to be able to have any contact with Michelle. There's also an active order of protection that has been in place. Will you promise not to do that if I release you?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. I am going to release you on these charges today. You do have to appear on December 3rd at 10:30 in the morning at Pima County Justice Court. If you don't show up at that date and time, they can issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your conditions of release: commit no acts of domestic violence and do not have any contact with Michelle. Do not go to where she is living or where she's working. Do you understand that as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great, you're all done for today.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Hi, sir. Tell me your name.
James Rosson.
Mr. Rosson, you are here today on a charge involving domestic violence criminal damage. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on your case. I also had an opportunity to review an intimate partner risk assessment that law enforcement provided. It does look like the victim in this case declined to participate in that, but that is something that I am required to consider. Sir, if I release you today, you are going to have to find an alternate address that is not with your wife for the time being. Is that something you can arrange?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And if I release you, will you promise to show up for a future court date?
Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to release you today on this charge. Your next court date is December 3rd at 10:30 at Pima County Justice Court. You do need to appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, they can issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
And as we've discussed, your conditions of release involve committing no further acts of domestic violence and do not have any contact with Holly at this time. Don't go to where she's living or working, and make sure you establish an alternate address. Do you need to return home to collect belongings?
I do.
All right, so what I'm gonna do is check the box on your release conditions that says you may return with a police escort to pick those up. Do not go back to the house by yourself. You need to take law enforcement with you. Take a copy of the order that you get when you get released to a station nearby and let them know that you need to go get your belongings, or you can call 911 and let them know that you have an order to return to get your belongings, but make sure they accompany you. Please do not go to your house and sit out in front of the house and wait for police to get there. You're going to call 911, go to somewhere nearby, call 911, and then wait so that you can meet officers at the residence. All right. Any questions about that?
Ma'am.
All right. You're all done for today.
Yep.
Okay, sir, tell me your name.
Hey, Sherwood?
Is your middle name James?
Yes.
Mr. Sherwood, you are here today on charges of domestic violence, criminal damage, and threats and intimidation. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. I've also had the opportunity to review an intimate partner risk assessment that law enforcement prepares in this matter, and the court is required to consider that when discussing conditions of release with you here today. If I release you, sir, you are not going to be allowed to have any contact with the victim in this case, Ellen. You're not going to be able to have any contact with her. Do you understand that?
I do.
And the information that I have is that she is not going to remain at the shared residence. So I'm not going to restrict you from returning to that location. However, you are not going to be able to go anywhere where she is living or working. Do you understand that?
Absolutely.
And commit no further acts of domestic violence. Those are all your conditions of release. Do you agree to abide by those?
I agree.
Right, then I'm going to release you on your promise to appear. Your next court date is going to be November 19th at 8:30. That's at Sarita Municipal Court. When you get released later today, you'll get paperwork that has these conditions on them, and it has the address and well, so that you'll have access to all of that, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You need to make sure you show up. If you don't show up at that time, they could issue a warrant for your arrest.
Understood.
All right, you're all done, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, sir, tell me your name.
Aaron Calamia?
Mr. Calamia, you are here today on a domestic violence charge for assault and also a domestic violence charge on threats and intimidation. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. Sir, if I release you today, are you staying in a location that is not with Rochelle Kennedy right now?
Correct.
So you are not residing with her.
No. That's my wife and I with our kids.
So if I release you, will you promise to show up at a court date that I give you in the future at Tucson City Court?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is also the time for your arraignment, sir. I need to tell you that I'm entering pleas of not guilty on your behalf for both of these charges. You are presumed innocent. Your next court date is going to be December 9th at 9:30 in the morning in front of Judge Maldonado at Tucson City Court. You do need to appear at that date and time, or a warrant could issue for your arrest. These hearings can also go forward in your absence. So this hearing and any subsequently set hearings, including a trial, could happen without you being there. And if you're convicted at a trial and can't be sentenced within 90 days, you could also lose your right for any appeal on this case. Do you understand all those consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, Your Honor.
So your additional conditions of release are going to be committing no acts of domestic violence, and you're not allowed to have any contact with Miss Kennedy. Don't go to wherever it is that she is living or working. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you are all done for today.
Thank you.
Be down the road.
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
I'm Desiree Maria Montaño.
Miss Antonio, you were here on a warrant out of Tucson City Court. It looks like 2 warrants. One of them is for an assault and disorderly conduct. Those are domestic violence related. The other is for having liquor in a vehicle. These warrants looks like they were issued earlier this year. I have an address for you on West Camino del Viento. Is that still a good address for you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So I have a couple of choices today, Ms. Montano. I can release you and give you a new court date for both of these cases, but you have to show up. They're not going to go away.
I had a court date last month that I went to that I was supposed to go to last week. I think it was the 24th, they said, but I got the dates mixed up. Thought it was 3 days after that. So
Okay.
I actually apologize for that. And I was supposed to go to that actually to take care of that. And those were taking care of the last court date. So I was kind of confused why those were active still.
Okay. So you obviously haven't been showing up for those. So let me give you a new court date. So the warrants are now dealt with, but you have to show up at Tucson City Court on December 5th at 9:30 in the morning in front of Judge Cranshaw. So I'm going to release you on both of these cases today, but you do have to appear at that date and time or a warrant could be issued for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Your additional conditions of release: do not have any contact with the victims in these cases and don't return to the incident locations. Do you understand that as well?
Yes.
Okay, so make sure you show up December 5th. When you get released later today, they're going to give you a copy of your paperwork. It's going to have that date and time on it. Hold on to that so that you can keep track of the date, okay?
Okay.
You're all done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, sir. Tell me your name.
Jason James Reyes.
Mr. Reyes, you are here today on some city court matters. Looks like there are some warrants out for your arrest on charges of criminal trespass, aggravated assault, and disorderly conduct. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I'm also showing that you have a probation hold at this time. So regardless of what I do on this case, you're still going to be held in custody because of your probation matter. Do you understand that? Okay. So
Yes, I do.
I'm actually going to release you on the city court cases, but that's just the city court. So you're still going to stay in custody.
Okay, but I'm gonna be held on probation.
Right. But what that means is once your probation matter is done, then you'll be released and you're going to have to show up at city court for these cases to get them taken care of. Okay, here's how this will work. I'm going to give you a video review hearing date for city court for November 8th at 1:45. So if you are still in custody on your probation matter, you'll be seen via video, much like you're doing today in front of a city court judge. It'll be Judge Mayhew that will see you probably that day. And then you can take care of your city court cases. If you get released on your probation matter, then your court date you will have to appear in person at is going to be December 10th at 9:30. And when you physically get released, the jail should give you a copy of your paperwork that we're talking about here today that'll have that date and time on it. Okay.
Yeah.
You understand
Okay.
that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you do get released, sir, don't have any contact with the victims in your city court cases and do not return to the incident locations. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You're all done for today.
All right. Have a good day, ma'am.
You too.
Yeah. Or 40.
Yeah, right here, sir. Tan's turn. Right here.
And we need Miss Costick back. Has anyone seen Miss Costick? All right, sir, tell me your full name.
Christopher Daly.
Mr. Abraham, you are here today on a couple of different matters. The first is a felony charge of criminal damage. On that matter, I am going to appoint the legal defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. You also have a justice court warrant involving assault and disorderly conduct. That warrant is out of Pima County Justice Court, and the warrant amount does list $800. We're going to talk about that case here in a second. You do have the right to remain silent on all of these cases. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on your case. I've also had an opportunity to review the state's recommendation as to your conditions of release. Given what I've reviewed and despite the failure to appear and the warrant in justice court, I am inclined to release you to pretrial services. Does either counsel need to be heard?
Your Honor.
All right. So, Mr. Abraham, I'm going to release you today to the custody of pretrial services. That's an agency that works with the court, and you're going to be required to maintain contact with them, participate in any treatment or monitoring they direct. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms while this case is going on. Do not have any contact with the victim and don't go back to the incident location. This is on the felony case. Do you understand, Mr. Abraham? Mr. Abraham?
Yeah.
All right, I need you to stay looking up at me. I need to know that your eyes are open, you're alert, and you're paying attention to what I'm telling you, okay? This will just take another minute. Your next court date is going to be November 20th at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, so it's really important that you stay in contact with your attorney. If you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes.
The next hearing on your justice court case, I'm releasing you on that as well. Again, no contact with the victims. Don't go to the incident location. Your next court date is December 3rd at 8:30 in front of Judge Cornejo at Pima County Justice Court. Same situation, sir. If you don't show up, they're going to issue another warrant for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yeah.
All right. I'm showing an address for you on East Limberlost. Is that still a good address for you?
Yeah,
Do you get mail at that address?
I believe so.
Okay. If
Are
you
you
need-
able to pull out his mail, see if it shows up there? Do you have a relationship with it? Do you have another address that the court can use instead?
So, Mr. Abraham, I'm going to tell you about a resource, and when you get released later today, you can stop there if you want, or you don't have to. The transition center is located right outside the jail property or kind of on the jail property. It's a trailer. If you need any kind of services to assist with housing, substance abuse, mental health, They have a whole range of services that they may be able to provide. If any of those apply to you and you need assistance, I would encourage you to stop by there and see if there's anything that they can help you with, okay? All right, stay in contact with pretrial and your attorney. You're all done for today.
Thank you.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Jimmy McElroy.
Mr. McElroy, you are here today on charges of child abuse and failing to seek medical care. Looks like there's a couple of counts. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. I've also had the opportunity to review the state's recommendation. I am inclined to impose a bond of $500,000 on this matter. Given all of the information that I have reviewed, I also would impose a no contact with minors order, as well as no contact with the victim and reporting to pretrial if bond is posted. Does either party wish to be heard?
No, Your Honor, given the court's inclination.
And I do see that, I do see that was the state's recommendation as well. Ms. Costick.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to be heard as to the matter of the question of bond. I believe that a lesser bond would be appropriate given Mr. McElroy's indigent status and the fact that he does have confirmed family housing, family support and housing. So I would ask that the court impose a bond no more than $10,000 secured.
I am going to impose a $500,000 bond in this matter. That will be cash or secured. Sir, if you post that bond, then you'll be released to pretrial services. If you're released to pretrial services, you're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you cannot have any firearms. You are not allowed to have contact with the victim in this case or any of that victim's lawful representatives. They are also victims in this case. Do not go to wherever the victim may be living. You're not to have any contact with minors. No one under the age of 18 are you with. Your next hearing in this case is November 12th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. If you're in custody, the jail will make sure they transport you to future hearings. But if you do post bond, it is your responsibility to appear. Do you understand your conditions of release, sir?
Yeah.
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear for future hearings?
Yeah.
You're all done for today. And Ms. Costick, it looks like if Ms. Sanchez Huerta is next, that is also a misdemeanor.
I'm out to see her quietly. Thank you.
Hi, ma'am.
Hello.
Tell me your full name.
Tanya Sanchez Huerta.
Ms. Sanchez Huerta, you are here today on a charge of domestic violence involving failing to comply with a court order. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review some information that pretrial services has provided about you. I've also had the opportunity to review a intimate partner risk assessment that was provided by law enforcement. It does look like the victim in this case declined to participate in most of those questions and answers. The victim in this case is a former boyfriend, Charles Leva. There is also an active order of protection on this case listing him. So that means you're not to have any contact with him. If I release you today, will you promise not to have any contact with him?
Yes.
And will you show up at a future court date that I give you?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to release you on your promise to appear. Your next court date is December 3rd at 10:30 in the morning at Pima County Justice Court. When you get released later today, you'll get a copy of paperwork that has that date and time and also the address for Justice Court. Your additional conditions: commit no acts of domestic violence and do not have any contact with Mr. Leva. Don't go to his home, his work. Do not text, do not call, no communication on social media. He does not exist in your world. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, you're all done for today.
Thank you very much. Come on up, ma'am. And then the rest of you will be next.
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Susan Gunch.
Ms. Gunch, you are here today on a warrant that looks like out of Nogales Justice Court for possession of a narcotic drug, and also drug paraphernalia. Those are actually, it's got to be out of, well, maybe Santa Cruz County. And then you also have multiple cases out of Tucson City Court where you have failed to appear. So we're going to talk about those as well. You do have the right to remain silent on all of these matters. Anything you say can and will be used against you. The warrant out of Santa Cruz County is for a narcotic drug possession and drug paraphernalia. It is a Class 6 felony. Ma'am, I'm showing an address for you on South 6th. Is that still a good address for you?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's where you'd get mail?
Yes, ma'am. I've been there a couple months now.
So your matters are not going to go away, ma'am. They are not going to disappear. You actually have to go to court to get them taken care of.
Okay.
If I release you today, will you promise to show up and get your matters taken care of?
Yes, ma'am.
It also means you're going to have to be in contact with Santa Cruz County so that you can get that matter taken care of as well.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I am going to release you on your warrant out of Santa Cruz County. You are going to need to contact that jurisdiction so that you can get information about how to get that matter taken care of and where they are in the process. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And as to your Tucson City Court matters, I am going to release you on those as well. It'll be your last chance, ma'am. If you don't show up, they're going to issue a warrant and then probably keep you in custody next time if you don't show up. Do you
Yes,
understand?
ma'am.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
So a condition of your release, you are not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. Your charges do involve DUI, criminal trespass, and possession of drug paraphernalia. Do not go to wherever the criminal trespasses occurred in these matters. Those are going to be victims and you can't go back there. Do you understand all of those conditions of release?
Yes, ma'am.
Your next court date is December 5th at 9:30 in the morning in front of Judge Cranshaw at Tucson City Court. When you get released later today, you're going to get copies of all this paperwork and you're going to need to make sure that you You hold on to that so that you know when it is that you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Vernon? Sir, are you there?
Jordan.
Jordan?
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Jordan, Vernon?
And Mr. Barrett, is your middle name Richard?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You are here today on a charge of burglary in the 3rd degree. It is a felony offense. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. In looking at that, it looks as though you're on felony probation and probation has placed a hold on you. So regardless of what we do on this new case and your conditions of release, which is what we're about to talk about, you are going to continue to be held on your probation matter. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
I've also had the chance to review information provided by the state in this case with respect to their recommendation on conditions of release. They are asking for a $5,500 bond. Did you want to be heard, Mr. Moser?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Costick?
Your Honor, given the APO hold, I would ask for a nominal bond to be set in this matter. Otherwise, I would have asked for release given his verified housing, employment, and support. So I'd ask the court to impose a bond no more than $500.
I am going to impose a cash or secured bond in the amount of $2,500. If you can post that bond, sir, then you'll be released to pretrial services. Again, you've got to get your probation matter taken care of first. If you do get released to pretrial services on this case, you're required to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't have any alcohol or drugs, and you can't have any firearms. I'm sure those are all conditions of your probation anyway. You're not to have any contact with the victim in this case, and you're not to return to the incident location. Do you understand all of your conditions of release?
Yes, Judge.
Your next court date is going to be November 12th at 1:30 on this matter. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be expected to appear at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, Judge.
If you stay in custody, the jail will make sure that you're transported or appear via video, much like you're doing today for your hearings. But if you bond out, it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney in the event that dates change, okay?
Yes, Judge.
You're all done.
Thank you.
So that was for, Sean Fulton was your attorney. You don't do anything. You just sit. You're going to sit here and work with Sean. Sean will be able to see you the next couple of days.
Thank you.
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Jocelyn Albertina Damas.
Ms. Gomez, you are here today on a charge of controlling stolen property. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on this matter. I am going to appoint the public defender's office, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. I have an address for you on North Via de Cordoba. Is that a good address for you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I've also had an opportunity to review the state's recommendation in this case. It is my inclination based on what I reviewed to release Ms. Gomez on her own recognizance. Does anyone want to be heard further?
No, Your Honor.
Your Honor, she thanks you very much.
So, ma'am, you're going to be released today, and that's on your own promise to appear at future court dates. Your additional conditions of release don't have any contact with the victims in this case, okay? Don't return to the incident location to the extent that you know where that is. Your next court date is going to be November 20th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur. So it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney. You're responsible for showing up at all future hearings, and if you don't, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. You're all
Judge, I just have a quick question regarding the victim contact. I wasn't able to, it wasn't clear for me from the interim complaint, but it seemed to suggest that perhaps the firearm in question was a TPD firearm. And I just wanted to make sure that if Ms. Gomez needs assistance from TPD, that she's not prohibited from having contact with them.
You of course can have contact with TPD. I'm talking about the individual that you received the gun from, or however it is. Just if, when and if you find out a specific name of a person, or if you know who that is, I'm not asking any questions about that. Don't have any contact with that individual. All right. All right. You're all done, ma'am. And I know pretrial was still working on Mr. Hibbard. Do we have an update on them?
I was able to review it. It did pop in within the last 15 to 20 minutes.
All right. I want to thank pretrial for getting that together. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Jeremy Joseph Hibbert.
Mr. Hibbert, you are here today on a charge of theft of means of transportation. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I am going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing. The initial appearance is the time to set your conditions of release. I've had an opportunity now to review information that pretrial services has provided me. I've also had an opportunity to review the state's recommendation as to your conditions of release. They are asking that the court impose a $2,500 bond in this matter. Mr. Moser?
Under the additional information from pretrial services that he has a NCA scale of number of 4, an FTA scale number of 2, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 prior felony convictions from out of state listed, with including 3 from 2021, in which he did jail time. For those reasons, we are asking for the $2,500 bond.
Ms. Kostick?
And I'd ask the court to release Mr. Herbert to pretrial services and allow him to reside out of county in Phoenix, which is his county of residence. No, not speak. Don't speak. Please let me do my speaking, okay? Mr. Hibbert does have employment lined up that he needs to be available for. What I would also note is that the 4 and the 2, he still has a likelihood of appearing over 85%. And a likelihood of not committing new offenses of 5%. So the risk to release Mr. Hibbert is quite low, given the nature of the offense and the confusion related to this vehicle. I do believe that he's a good candidate for release, and he will make himself available in Pima County at all times as required by the court.
I do note in reviewing the criminal history, I don't see any indication that he failed to appear. Although it's a pretty consistent criminal history. I don't know if that's because it's out of state or I know on our local cases, we tend to see that kind of a history.
Yes, ma'am. Although the pretrial, the PSA also indicates no failures to appear within the last 2 years or even beyond the 2-year.
Sir, I am going to release you to pretrial services. I understand that your residence is in Phoenix, but you're going to need to be here in Pima County for your hearings. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. In releasing you to pretrial services, what that means, sir, is that you're going to need to stay in contact with that agency. I'm sure Ms. Kostick will write down the number for you. As conditions of release, you're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms. Do not have any contact with the victim in this case. Don't go near the incident location. And I will indicate in the order that you are allowed to reside in Phoenix at the address that you provided to pretrial services on 12th Avenue.
Yes, ma'am.
Your next court date is going to be November 20th. And that's at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you're going to be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. If you fail to appear at future court dates, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand?
That's right.
All right, you're all done for today.
So Mr. Hibbert, give our offices a call on Monday. We'll
Yep.
have an assignment for you.
Yep.
To give them a call as soon as you get out, do whatever they ask you to do.
You're attorney.
I am an attorney, but I'm not gonna be yours. I'm gonna sign it.
No seconds up where I just recently got to old work program
Oh,
place act there, but I was really coming here for
don't.
all right.
Ms. Costick, I think you may still be muted.
Are you able to hear me now, Judge?
Yes, thank you. Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Tavion Edward Lewis, Your Honor.
Sir, you are here today on an charge of aggravated domestic violence. It is a felony. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on this matter. I am going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. I do note, sir, that probation has a hold on you. It looks like you were on probation, and they have actually placed a hold on you at this time. So regardless of what we do on your conditions of release for this case, you're going to be held on that probation matter. I've also had a chance to review information provided by the state as to their recommendation on conditions of release. They are asking for a $15,000 bond. Mr. Moser?
Additional information.
Your Honor, given the APO hold, I'd have to impose a nominal bond for purposes of pretrial credit. I would note that this is an aggravated domestic violence offense, that it would have been a misdemeanor. It sounds like, other than the escalation from the 2 priors in 84 months, there was no physical injury involved. He does have verified housing, and he reports employment with Better Way Construction and Contracting. He does have housing separation apart from the victim. So taking all of that into consideration, I would ask the court to impose a bond of no more than $500.
I am going to impose a bond in this case of $5,000, cash or secured. If you do post that bond, sir, then you'll be released to pretrial services. To get released to pretrial services, you are not to have any contact with the victim in this case at all. Do not go to wherever it is that she may be living or working. You're to commit no further acts of domestic violence. You can't have any alcohol or illegal drugs, no firearms. Do you understand all of those conditions of release?
Yes, Your Honor.
And then your next hearing in this case is going to be November 12th at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. You're still in custody. The jail will make sure you get to your hearings or appear via video, much like you're doing here today. If you do get released, it's your responsibility to appear at those court hearings, and it's important you stay in contact with your attorney. Do you understand all of that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're all done.
So don't pay that bond even if you can't, because you got a probation hold. So you can go anywhere, and lawyers will be up to you. When you work with a bonding agent, it would be some 10%, so $500, and then the remainder in collateral. But if you worked on it, you wouldn't get out, so it's not worth working on it right now. Talk with your lawyer, and they'll be out to see you.
Tell me your full name. Ma'am, I need you to tell me your full name. Ms. Morales, you are here on multiple matters here today. Looks like you're here on a couple of warrants out of Pima County Superior Court for failing to appear at your initial appearance and arraignment on charges of narcotic drug possession and drug paraphernalia. We also have a Tucson City Court case that we're going to need to talk about as well. It is a drug paraphernalia case. You do have the right to remain silent on all of these charges. Anything you say can will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on the felony cases. I am going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on these matters. Also had an opportunity to review the state's recommendation as to your conditions of release. They are asking for a $2,500 bond. It does look like the warrants are asking for $500 each on the felony cases. It doesn't, and yeah. All right, Mr. Moser, did you want to be heard further?
I don't have any additional argument to make, Your Honor.
Ms. Costick?
Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. I would ask the court to consider release to pretrial services given the nature of the two offenses. This appears to be an FTA at arraignment. There are returned mail issues that are noted in the pretrial services workup. I think this has something to do with a lack of good address at that time and unawareness of the refile. These look like they were originally steps cases. Ms. Morales has no prior felony history, but for these two pending matters at 56 years old. She did not have transportation, but she does and will work on it now. She understands that the bus system remains free and that she can utilize that to meet her court hearings. And I know that she will actively work with Mr. Knox and our drug defense team to get these sorted out.
Yes.
She's indicating a desire to go into treatment as well, Your Honor, which would be better supported in the community.
Because I just had surgery.
So, Ms. Morales, I do see that there's an address at least that was reported to the jail on South Gila. Is that a good address for you right now?
Yes, that's my mom's.
Okay, so you're staying with your mom right now, so you have a place to stay.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
But no.
You can receive mail there?
Yes,
She can receive mail there, Your Honor, but she's not physically residing there.
I want to go to.
She's requesting to be placed at the ARC, and I'll direct her to the transition center should the court be inclined to release her for that assistance.
Just need to go.
Okay, so Ms. Morales, I am going to release you today, but you have to come to court on these matters. Do you understand?
Okay, I have somebody to help me.
Okay, so you're going to get released to pretrial services, which means that you need to stay in contact with that agency. They may ask you to participate in monitoring or treatment. You must do that. Do not have any alcohol. Do not have any illegal drugs. You can't have any firearms while this case is going on. Your next court date for both of your felony cases is going to be November 7th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is the time for your arraignment on these cases. Both felony cases will be heard at that time. You do need to appear or they can issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that, Ms. Morales?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about your Tucson City Court case as well. I am going to release you on that case. Your next court date there is going to be December 3rd at 9:30 in the morning, and that'll be in front of Judge Sergio at Tucson City Court. When you get released later today, you're going to get copies of your paperwork. Make sure you take that because it's going to have your court dates. And I know Ms. Kostick is writing that down as well. This is also the time for your arraignment on your city court case for drug paraphernalia. So I need to tell you that you are presumed innocent. I am entering a plea of not guilty on your behalf. And that court date that I gave you for December 3rd, if you don't show up, they could issue a warrant, but they could also go forward with hearings in your absence. So that hearing date and any subsequently set hearings can go forward without you, and that includes a trial. If you get convicted at a trial, even though you're not there and can't be sentenced within 90 days, then you lose your right to an appeal on that case. Do you understand all those consequences if you fail to appear, Ms. Morales?
Understand?
Yes.
Okay, so when you get released today, Ms. Costick mentioned it, the transition center, it's a trailer right near the jail property. If you go to the transition center and when you leave the jail and collect your belongings, just ask them to point you in the right direction. Go to the transition center. They will be able to assist you with housing and substance abuse connections within the community. I don't know if they'll be able to take you directly to the ARC today. I don't know what the situation is with bed space. I'm sure Ms. Costick is going to give you the phone number for your attorney. He also handles a lot of these types of cases. Please do not just disappear. We want to be able to help you with those services. So it's really important that you maintain contact with your attorney in pretrial. All right, Ms. Morales?
Yes,
Okay, you're all done for today.
thank you.
All right.
I need to call you, baby.
You need to call us when you get out. Call us on Monday. You got to call them immediately. Get yourself situated. Go to the transition center. See if they can get you a ride over. They got a bed for you. And then once you're settled in, wherever you're settled in, call my office on Monday and we'll get you connected to your lawyer. Okay.
So if I could get a ride from here.
You may be able to talk with them over at the transition center. Okay.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Joseph Michael Petkovich.
Mr. Petkovich, you were here today on a charge of aggravated assault, deadly weapon, dangerous instrument, and disorderly conduct charges, 2 counts. These are felony matters. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you. At least one of these is also a domestic violence offense. You do have the right to an attorney. I am appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. I've also had an opportunity to review the state's recommendation as to conditions of release. It does look like the state is asking for a $25,000 bond. Mr. Moser?
Your Honor, we're asking for that bond based upon the nature of the facts of the case, as well as other information indicated on the recommendation sheet.
Ms. Costick?
Honor, I'm asking the court to consider release to pretrial services. Mr. Petkovich is 57 years old, has no felony criminal history, no previous DV misdemeanor history either, which means he also has no failures to appear. He is a 1 and a 1 on the PSA. He has a driver's license that does cross-verify with the address that he reported in his time in the community, Boyd, and does not want to lose his employment. He understands that he will not be permitted to possess the firearm during the pendency of this case and will abide by that.
I have the same job.
The address that I have for you, sir, is on West Diamond Bell Ranch. You are not going to be allowed to have any contact with the victims in this case. Is that an address that is different from them?
Yes.
And Mr. Petkovich, just so the court knows, reports that he's maintained the same job for 25 years, Your Honor. This is very important.
I am going to impose a bond on this case. The bond is going to be $25,000 cash or secured. If you're able to post that bond, sir, then you'll be released to pretrial services. If you're released to pretrial services, you're to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You cannot commit any acts of domestic violence. You're not allowed to have any alcohol or drugs, and you may not have any firearms. To the extent that you do have firearms, you do need to surrender those to the police department. Your attorney can assist you with how it is that you're supposed to do that, but you can't have any in your possession. You're also not to have any contact with the victim in this case and do not return to the incident location. The no contact order with the victim in this case includes while you're in custody. So if you don't post that bond for whatever reason and you remain in the jail, you're not to have any contact with the victim. You would be given access to phone calls and visits and perhaps electronic communication, and you cannot have any contact. Once you're out, it doesn't just mean physical contact, it means no contact at all. So no texting, no emails, absolutely no communication or social media contact with the victim. Do you understand those conditions of release?
Yes, I do.
Your next court date is going to be November 12th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for attending all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant will issue for your arrest. If you post bond, sir, it's really important you stay in contact with your attorney so that they have the ability to let you know if there's any changes in court dates. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you're all done for today.
If you're able to bond out.
Yeah, my house is in foreclosure and all that, so I'm just gonna be. Apparently.
All right, a lawyer will be out to.
And nobody even knows where I am.
Rios,
Come on.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Patrick Elias Rios.
Mr. Rios, you are here today on counts involving possession of a weapon by a prohibited possessor and another count also of possessing a manufactured weapon. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on this matter. I am going to appoint the Public Defender's Office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. And actually, that's a total of 4 counts, sir, of the possession of prohibited possessor. And also misconduct involving weapons. So all of them are class 4 felonies. Looks like there was a warrant that was issued out of justice court on this case. Also, you were on probation in a matter from 2023, and it looks like probation has placed a hold on you. So regardless of what we do on this case here today, you're going to remain in custody until your probation matter is resolved. I have had the opportunity to take a look at what pretrial services has provided about you. I didn't see a recommendation from the state, Mr. Moser. Hang on. Nope, you're good. It looks like the state is requesting $150,000 on this, and that is the amount that's on the warrant. Mr. Moser, did you want to be heard further?
Your Honor, just a little bit more because it's a warrant and court cannot see the interim complaint. It's possession of weapons. He was on probation at the time. There was some knife-in and analysis. Some of the weapons or the casings were linked to shootings. We're not saying that the defendant is linked to that, but the weapons are linked to those. And so given the nature of that, possession of firearms, his placement on probation during that period of time, we're going to ask the court to hold him with $150,000.
Mr. Moser, do you have any indication if it was more than one weapon that was collected?
I believe it was multiple weapons, Your Honor.
Don't say anything. Do not say anything. No, do not say anything about this case. You can talk with your lawyer. It is not going to help you right now. I'm just telling you right now. Do not say a word.
And some of the evidence, Your Honor, is and I think it's pictures of him with firearms, date and timestamp on his cell phone that they were able to see.
Thank you. Ms. Kostick.
Your Honor, in setting the appropriate bond conditions, given the APO hold, I would ask the court to consider Mr. Rios's young age and the fact that he does have confirmed housing and family support with his mother.
I am going to impose a bond in this matter of $100,000. That is going to be a cash or secured bond. If you do post that bond, sir, then you'd be released to the custody of pretrial services. If you're released to pretrial services, you're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't have any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms or weapons. And again, that will be after your probation matter gets resolved if you do post that bond. Do you understand your conditions of release?
Yes, ma'am.
Your next court date is going to be November 12th at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you are responsible for showing up at all future court dates. If you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
My name is Alvin Joshua Robinson.
Mr. Robinson, you are here today on a charge of prohibited possessor and discharging a firearm in the city limits. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. In this matter, I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. I've also had the opportunity to review the state's recommendation as to conditions of release. It looks like they are requesting a bond of $20,000. Mr. Moser.
Anything additional to add to the recommendation here?
Ms. Costick.
Your Honor, I ask the court to consider his confirmed housing and family support through mother, his 2 and 4 on the PSA. I also understand that there may have been some confusion about whether Mr. Robinson was in fact refusing to cooperate with pretrial services. I know that he actually inquired. I heard some chatter in the pretrial services offices that he inquired about why he had not been provided an interview. So I just would ask the court to take that into consideration. It does look like he might have been more interested in engaging than was perceived. Mr. Robinson has a 2 and a 4-year-old at home that he is responsible for as well.
Give me just a second. So, Mr. Robinson, if I release you today, you're going to have to stay in contact with pretrial services. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am. I will.
You're not going to be allowed to have any guns. Do you understand that as well?
I promise.
I am going to release you to pretrial services. You're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You cannot have any alcohol or illegal drugs, and absolutely no guns. To the extent that there are other guns in the home where you're residing, those need to be surrendered to law enforcement. You cannot be in the same location with any guns. Do you understand those conditions of release?
I'm supposed to get a job. I understand. I hear you.
Your next hearing date is going to be November 20th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's going to be a preliminary hearing. That date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Because you'll be released, it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney in the event that that date changes. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Your excuse for today.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out.
Hi.
Hi, tell me your full name.
Hello, it is Bianca Naviano.
Ms. Romero, you are here today on multiple matters. The first one we're going to talk about is a domestic violence aggravated assault charge involving impeding the airway of the victim in this case. You also have a matter out of Green Valley Justice Court for disorderly conduct and threats and intimidation. There is a $500.
Yes, ma'am. I
don't want you to talk. I want you to just listen. That warrant does list a $500 cash bond on it. You also have city court matters that you're here for today as well. You do have the right to remain silent on all of those matters today. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on the felony matters. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had the opportunity to review information that pretrial services has provided. I've also had the opportunity to review the state's recommendation as to your conditions of release. The state is recommending a $70,000 bond. I need you to listen while I'm talking so that you don't.
I'm so sorry.
That I'm telling you, okay? You'll get it.
Sorry, ma'am.
You'll get it.
I just can't emphasize enough on
You'll
how
get it.
much I
You'll
literally
get it.
common sense together. I have a job and I can't lose.
You'll get a chance to talk to your attorney in a second. I just need you to listen, okay? So the state is recommending a $70,000 bond, Mr. Moser.
Your Honor, a great concern is that, the nature of this offense and the prior conviction for almost the exact same thing. There's orders of protection out against her, two separate people who are not the victim in the underlying offense here. Just given all that information and the high risk associated with strangulation, requesting that bond.
I will note that I did not see a lethality assessment on this particular case, the risk assessment. So I don't have that. Ms. Costick?
Yes, Your Honor, I was going to point out the lack of risk assessment, lethality assessment. I don't have any information related to this specific case. I would ask the court to consider Ms. Rios's limited felony history and her lack of misdemeanor DV history, as noted in the pretrial services report. And Ms. Rios has made it very clear that she has a job and she has just begun to get her life in order after having been discharged from probation in February, and that she's very committed to that direction.
I've stayed completely out of trouble since then, man. I have a job. I cannot lose it. I have bills, I have everything. It's the first of the month that's coming up too. I cannot lose my apartment. I just got my life together. Literally, I will go to any court, anything. I will go to anything. I don't understand what's going on with that stuff, because when the cop, I literally have a citation.
Ms. Romero, okay. Ms. Romero, we're going to go forward with your conditions of release. I am going to impose a bond today in the amount of $25,000 on this felony case. That is a cash or secured bond. If you post that bond, then you'll be released to pretrial services. If you get released to pretrial services, you're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You cannot have any alcohol or drugs. You cannot have any firearms, nor can you have any contact with the victim in this case. Do not go to where she is living or working under any circumstances. If you remain in custody, that order does continue to apply to you in custody. To the extent that you're given phone access or access to electronic communication, you are not to have any contact with her. Do you understand those conditions of release?
Yes.
Your next court date is going to be November 12th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be expected to show a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear? Now, that was on your felony case. We need to talk about your case from Green Valley as well. There is a bond on that case of $500 cash. I am going to impose that at this time. I am going to appoint an attorney to represent you in your Green Valley case.
I don't understand why I got this in
I'm going to
cash.
show you what happens. Just listen to the judge.
And hang on while I get the name of that. It looks like it's going to be Robin Ald. So Robin Ald is going to be representing you on that Green Valley case so that you can get that matter taken care of. The next hearing is going to be November 7th at 8:30 in the morning on that matter. Now we need to talk about your city court cases. It looks like there is the warrant for the assault, criminal damage, and disorderly conduct. And then also criminal trespass.
Yes, this was for yesterday.
I don't know what it's about. Just sitting
I don't understand why
I'm going to explain that to you, because quashing a warrant just means you get it quashed and then you have to still show up. When you don't show up again, another warrant issues.
So I know, but they got it quashed. I did go to the court for it, and they literally gave me I had to go to classes for it.
Okay, so for whatever reason, there was another court date that was issued and you didn't show up and they issued another one. Okay.
So on your city court cases, I'm going to release you on those matters. So if you get these other things taken care of, you're not going to be held on the city court case. I am going to give you a video review hearing. So if you're still in custody, that's going to happen November 8th at 1:45 in front of Judge Verena. And that will be your city court cases all together that will be handled at that time. Do not have any contact with the victims in your city court cases and don't return to the incident location. Does look like that was an apartment on South Pantana Road. That was back in 2023. Looks like June of 2023 was the date of those offenses. If you get released on your city court matters and you don't have your review hearing on November 8th, then you're going to have to appear at Tucson City Court on December 2nd at 2:00 in the afternoon. It will still be in front of Judge Verena. Right? Remember,
Yes, ma'am. What do I do if the girl has all of my belongings? Like my credit cards, my clothes, absolutely everything.
We'll give you, your lawyer's gonna be able to see you and we'll advise you on how to work with law enforcement to get your blunt time contact to get your eye. So that's it. Okay.
all right, that's all for today. And we are all done, everyone. Thank you so much for your assistance. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Judge. May I be excused?
Yes, of course. Bye.
Yes.